obviously mental health is a huge thing right now. It's at an all-time high, low. I don't really know what to
I think you could say that either way.
Yeah, whether I help one person or 100 people get out of that place that I was in at one point in my life, that's all I need to do.
You're listening to Studio 22.
Welcome to Studio 22. I'm Will Meldman with my incredible co-host, Brock O'Hearn. Today we have a legendary guest in our studio that we've been grateful to get in. Been trying to book it for a while now, and we're so stoked to have him here, Presley Gerber.
How's it going, boys?
What's going on, bro?
Doing well?
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for making this happen, boys. I'm really excited.
I want to kind of take it back a little bit to like the start of kind of your professional life and all that. So your kind of first gig was modeling, right? You kind of started with that and then kept working on. And so how young were you when you started modeling?
Oh man, I want to say I did my first job. I was signed to IMG at 15 years old. I think my sister was 13. We got scouted and signed like the same day. And I want to say, besides like just the, they got to get the little photos of you for the website, which doesn't count as a shoot. Our first shoot was actually with Bruce Weber when we were like 2 months after we signed.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. So that was our first shoot. And we flew to Florida. I remember it was like 100. I literally passed out on set. I passed out on set because I'd just been in California my whole life. I'm not used to that humidity and stuff. Like the humidity and it was just beaming on us, and it was next level. But yeah, it started 15 years old, and that was kind of like that that spread or cover. I can't remember. I'm horrible, but that came out, and that kind of started everything. And from there, we progressed into a lot of runways, did a lot of runway work. So walked for a lot of different brands, would go to Fashion Week, do the whole, London, Paris, Milan, New York, twice a year.
Sounds incredible.
Wow.
It's incredible for the first 2 years.
It's also like pretty young to have like a full-time gig, right? I mean, it's really impressive in that way, I would think. Cause like I didn't have my first job till I think I was like 16 or 17 on Ocean's 13, but like even that was like a month or two in the summer, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like a full-time gig. But yeah, that takes a lot of ability and maturity at that age to do it.
It definitely, getting thrown into the modeling industry, it's like you sink or swim. That's like bottom line. So you're thrown into it, and you immediately have to know how everything works. I remember within the first week of signing, I'm like in New York, people are taking pictures of me, like shirt off. I'm like, this is, like just my whole life changed within a month. And like, it was just a very profound experience because I had to grow up quickly. All of a sudden I'm in social media school, and I'm sitting in a class where I'm literally being told how to answer questions. When people ask you this, we want you to respond with this. When people ask you this, we want you to speak like this. And, obviously I've clearly forgotten a lot of those skills, over the years, but it was, like you said, it was interesting being thrown into that mix where you're around now these celebrities, and we were definitely some of the younger ones at the agency. So that progressed. I want to say I modeled, did a lot. It was a blessing to do a lot of work. 2017 got Model of the Year, which was great. And then we kept doing some stuff. Around 2019, I started slowing down. I just started getting interested in my downtime started taking a toll on me. And that's the blessing and the curse behind modeling. If modeling is what you love to do, if modeling is what you want your career to be and what you want to be known for, then go in. I think if you're going to do anything, do it 100%.
Right.
But for me, it was more of like, I know I have business ideas. I know there's going to be things I'm going to want to do later in life. So it was more of like don't want to say passive income because it was my main income, but it was income for the future. And that's kind of how I was able to look at it. So it was definitely, it was just an interesting experience having to kind of decide like, how do I navigate this new industry that I'm in? A lot of downtime, like I mentioned, and modeling, you could get booked with, you could be working January through February, and then you have no idea, when you're going to get paid for that. You have no idea when the next job's coming up. There's a lot of unknowing, and they have a saying in the fashion industry: it's hurry up and wait. And that's literally what it is. It's like, hurry up. And then, I would show up to set at 4 a.m. and the first shot would be taken at 2 p.m. So it's just a very interesting industry. So I kind of, and it's great to meet people for networking, to just meet cool people. That I have some of my best friends were models. And that's kind of a thing that is interesting too, because a lot of my friends had the same perspective. Let's model right now. Let's make as much as we can, and then put it towards something that we actually believe in and love. So that's kind of what my modeling career was. Technically, I'm still modeling my Celine campaign. I have a contract with Celine currently, signed with DNA Models, and yeah, so I'm still modeling a little bit, but it's just, now it's trying to find that, what do I love? What do I want to put that time that I have to learn other things that I can apply to in the future? I
mean, it sounds like you had a really kind of mature perspective on it all too. Like, I'm going to do it, I'm going to make some money, but I'm also going to keep kind of my long-term goal and like passions in line with, I'm going to make space for, what I'm really passionate about while still kind of doing it. And that's awesome, man. It sounds like a really interesting, kind of unique adventure with it.
Thank you.
That's cool, man. Yeah, and acting is a lot like that too, as well. It's very much hurry up and wait. So I understand a lot of where you're coming from with that, and to have the perspective you do is awesome because one, now you have a good base to where you can set yourself up to go do whatever you want. But speaking to you too, we were talking about you going on a trip and going on vacation, taking some time to ground and take time for yourself, and I think that's a key moment right now is like, there's no need to rush into whatever phase you're at in your life to the next business, the next, gig, the next whatever. Take that time to focus on you, figure out how you work, how you show up in the world, what's interesting to you, what you love. And then when that moment's right, take it and run for it all the way. Because one, you're going to be more in love with it. You're going to be able to do more with it, and you're not going to burn out on it. So whatever you're doing right now is it's inspiring, and I think it's going to help a lot of people that are watching this or that are going to hear your story as well, even more moving forward. But it's going to be awesome to watch, dude. Like you're doing. I would say from what I've seen in my years on the earth, you're doing it right.
Thank you.
Really cool.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. That means a lot.
Did you grow up out here? Did you grow up in LA?
Yeah, actually. So born in Brentwood, moved to Malibu when I was like 4 years old. Spent my right before my 5th birthday. And my 5th birthday, down by the beach. I remember that. And then grew up in Malibu. Went to, all the little schools in Malibu High. I went to Point Doom Elementary School. I don't even know if that's still around, but yeah, that was like a marine science school. So we'd be, you'd be walking down to the beach, the tide pools, they'd be teaching you about little things like that. And it was, growing up in Malibu is a very interesting place to grow up because it's like a town, but it's got a highway running through the middle of it. So you don't really have, you're not in a neighborhood, but it's very small, like a neighborhood. So it's just it's a very interesting place to grow up. And going to the different schools there because it's in a very unique location in California. There's a lot. It's very diverse. The school. It's just really interesting. And honestly, I loved going there. I went to Oaks Christian 6th grade and ended up switching back to Malibu High. I mean, the 45-minute drive probably had an effect on that, but
Oh, for sure.
Ended up doing that. And
We played Oaks in lacrosse.
oh, did you?
Yeah.
No way.
I was a sophomore on varsity, and I went down and I was playing a game without shooting strings in my stick, so it had like no whip.
Okay.
And I went in for like a minute, scored a goal from like way outside the box, and everyone on my team's like, "Where the hell did that?" Come back, they see my stick, they're like, "You just scored from like 30 feet without shooting strings." I'm like, "Oh shit."
That's
Anyway,
epic.
it's probably luck more than anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my Oaks Christian side story.
Yeah. Did you end up winning that game?
Yeah.
Yeah?
We played Oaks probably 4 or 5 times within my career there, and I think it was actually pretty even. We probably maybe won like one more game than Oaks did, but pretty. They were a good team.
Yeah. I mean, Oaks, I'll give it to them. I mean, that's where my water polo career started, was at 6th grade, Oaks Christian. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, their sports, they're no joke with the sports and anything. And that's kind of how my discipline with at least sports started. I always say I was a fish boy because I was at Malibu High, at least I was on surf team, water polo, and on the off season of water polo, they force you to do swim team to keep conditioning up.
That makes sense.
That was like my sports thing. But playing Oaks and water polo, then going back and playing them in water polo, like the team I started on and stuff, it was amazing. And I mean, I feel like California is such a small place. LA in specific is such a small place that it was different than like what I saw my friends from other states doing, whether it's like playing rival schools and big rivalries, kind of things like that. I feel like we didn't really have that. If you were playing a different school, it's kind of like there's some friends on that team you might hang out with after.
You didn't feel like that anger in the rivalry or anything. It's like, those are my homies.
Yeah, no, there was never really. It wasn't super. I feel like Los Angeles isn't super competitive in that way.
Well, I think maybe from my perspective too, because I grew up in Orange County.
Okay.
More for the majority of it, but I switched high schools a lot. So I went to a couple different schools in different areas of California. Okay. And I remember going to Dana Point and then Capo Valley out there, and they had the surf team. I was on water polo at one point. I played beach volleyball at one point, and then I'd go to another school where I was like, dude, I love volleyball, love water polo, love surf. And then I'd go to somewhere inland like Palm Springs, and they didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
So what did they have is the football sports, the baseball and stuff like that. So I think those competitiveness come there. But it was, some of those sports too, I think, well, at least surfing, it's more of a singular sport to a degree where it's just you, right? So the competitiveness kind of changes in the sense of, I can only be as good as that next wave is coming in, what I can do on that, right? But I think it's a little more chill, a little more laid back, like what you're saying.
Absolutely. And especially just to your point of surfing being a singular sport. I mean, there's definitely no team like growing or team building exercises. I mean, it's you and a board in the ocean.
Yeah.
Speaking of like kind of growing up near and around LA, what were some like pros and cons of that? Because I grew up in SF, which is a lot smaller, and then Santa Barbara, which is like tiny. So like I'm interested in kind of hearing, because I didn't grow up near here or whatever. I could imagine it'd be like pretty interesting, right?
It's definitely, I mean, from what I experienced, it was a lot different. It was a lot different than, any of my buddies growing up. Their schools, the dynamic at their schools, their friend groups, just everything's different, like I remember, when was it? I was younger, and just, you're around, you run into people, and it I think adjusts you to a different, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, but it makes you comfortable with a different way of living. You're around more like celebrity, I hate that word, but you're around celebrities a lot. There's a lot of people that you would know from whether TV athletes, people from Instagram. There's a lot of people like that. And a lot of times you become friends with them or you know them and this and that. Now, that's a blessing and a curse. Sometimes you look up to someone your whole life, you meet them in real life, and they're not quite what you thought they were. And that's why, that can be a good thing and a bad thing. LA's, I will say though, it's interesting from the perspective of what I've noticed the most happening is the people who are born here are the people who end up staying. A lot of people move here. They'll spend a lot of their life here and then go back home.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people can withstand living in Los Angeles. And I don't know what it is, because even people that live in New York can't live in Los Angeles. And it's vice versa for me, at least. But
you see a lot of people come here trying to chase a dream, you know, and they're like the hot shot in their small town or something like that. Or, you know, they have a big dream and they're here a year and they're like, that's what I've always heard, is that if you can make it a year in LA, you can at least make it, you know, to a degree. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of transplant and a lot of in and outs, you know. There's
definitely an energy about LA, and it's like the hustle of New York, but slowed down.
Yeah.
In a weird, but in a weird way, not slowed down literally, just because everyone's still inspired. Everyone's trying to hustle. In New York, I feel like when you see someone walking on the street, they're walking to go somewhere. In LA, when you see someone walking on the street, they're walking to figure out what they're going to do. And that's the difference.
That. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I always say, I mean, I've been to New York multiple times and enjoyed staying there as well, but there's something about LA that exactly what you're saying. It's not that it's any slower, there's not as much opportunity or whatever it may be. It's that I feel you can choose the pace at which you want to go. So if you want to slow down and chill, you can do that. New York, I don't think you can do that.
That's a much better way of saying it. Yeah, New York's got, like I always say, I feel like I hit the ground running. Every time I go to New York, it's like the plane lands and your feet are like running with it. You're landing that plane. When LA's just different. You can do things at your own pace. There's less pressure. People are nicer. I mean, shit, like it's just different. You know, we got a beach, and I think being able to see water. I'm definitely trying to tap into like that spiritual side, you know, trying to get more grounded recently and stuff. And I mean, going and sitting at the beach just for a couple hours, even if it's by yourself, you got a little bit of time, you just are grounded in a different way. You jump in that cold water, it's a full reset.
It's pretty crazy how like the air quality of the beach and like where I used to live in West Hollywood, like, you know, West Hollywood's got to have pretty good air quality, right? Mm-hmm. Like considering it's pretty close to the ocean, flat, like sea level, you know. But then you get to the beach and it's like, no, this is where I'm supposed to be, right? Like this is where I feel good, and it's like super healthy to get out there. I totally agree though. Yeah. Like you look back at the days when even like Hollywood was forming, you know, the big thing was like you have beach, snow, forest, desert, all within 30 miles, 50 miles, right? And it's like, you can do anything you're interested in.
That's the selling point in California. It's like you can drive to every different, I mean, you can be in the snow in 3 hours, you can be in the beach in 3 hours, depending on where you are.
Snowboard in the morning and surf at night, or vice versa, you know?
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
No, it's a special place for sure. Yeah.
I want to know, how long have you guys known each other?
Oh, long time.
Man.
Yeah.
It was crazy because we were at like different ages for a little bit, because I'm older. But I don't even know. I remember meeting you and your sister when we were, I was basically a kid too, right? I'm not saying this like, I was an adult and you were a kid. No, like I was probably an early teenager, I want to say, which would have been what, like 20 years?
I want to say, probably
15,
20? 17, give or take a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a horrible way of me trying to describe it, but it's like, it's been a while.
I mean, no, you're the only one that's going to be able to describe it. I was too young to have a memory. So,
right.
Yeah. It's bizarre, though, yeah. We definitely have some serious history. That's crazy.
Pretty cool.
It's amazing. And just all that, just everything that's happened in between, like, it's cool, too, growing up with someone and then, you know, whether keeping that communication with them, whether it's like, you know, there's certain people in your life, and I feel like that's how we kind of can navigate my real friends from my fake friends.
Yeah.
The real ones you can hit up and, you know, they'll respond to you and you might forget to respond and they just know that's how you are. Yeah. And 3 months later you take, oh, my bad. I was busy with this and that. No worries. Let's get lunch tonight. Cool. Like that's
Yeah.
the difference. That's how you keep a friend for 20 years, or you know, meet
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
Nah, some of my closest friends, man, we won't talk for sometimes a year, 2 years, 3 years, but we grew up together when we were younger. And I'd always traveled all over the place when I was young. I never lived in the same place more than a year. And
wow.
having that, exactly what you're saying, it doesn't matter where we go or what happens in life or what successes or failures we have.
Yeah,
You just pick right back up where we left off, man.
absolutely.
And exactly what you said, that's when you know.
100%.
People come into your lives for different reasons, and you learn that more. At least I've found the older I get, it's why is this person in my life? Is it to be a friend for life? Am I supposed to learn something from them? Are they supposed to teach me something? What is it? And how do I move forward with that? And it's pretty cool, man. I was talking to a friend of mine, not to get sidetracked too much, but obviously we got to get back to you, man.
No,
You're the
no,
man.
no.
But my buddy Chris, we have been through some wild different transitions in our life and different life paths, but we've been friends since we were 3. And he went through a very hard time for a while, and so did I at different times in our lives. But now to see him, he's a father with 2 kids. He's killing it in real estate, man. He's absolutely just, I'm so proud of him as a friend and as a man, and his mind too. You talk about spirituality and just self-awareness and how he shows up in the world. It's like we started off in the same place, went totally different paths, stayed friends throughout the entire thing. And we're at different stages in our life. And now we're back at it. And we're like, we can have deep conversations about anything, about life and about problem solving and about all this stuff. And it's like, dude, it took us 30 years, but we're here, man. And it's worth every second,
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, it's worth all that time. Just the BS that you got to go through, whatever it is. If you come out on the other side, still being able to communicate.
Yep.
A communication, that's like my word, because it literally saves you time, energy, effort.
Yeah.
I mean, literally everything. So
Exactly.
I completely agree.
Yeah. No matter what relationship you want to put it, whether it's business, friendship, romantic, family, whatever it is, communication is the key.
100%.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
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 So that's a great piece of advice for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good one. Yeah. Communicate with people.
Communication. Another PSA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As we communicate, we
Yeah.
want to share. You should communicate.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of speaking of, like, obviously we kind of knew each other before Casamigos became a thing. And then it became a thing. And our pops, it was our popses and George and down in Cabo. And by the way, we had an epic episode with your dad, and we were extremely grateful for that and had very insightful conversations with him. But
Amazing.
one of the things I kind of wanted to ask you too, because I've been in a similar position, but how has kind of the formation of Casamigos like affected your life from pre-Casa and then post-Casa?
It really, I think watching my dad go through, and obviously our dads and George do put this much energy and effort into something. My life materialistically, I guess, or just how you live on a day-to-day basis, it didn't change. It didn't change at all. My parents aren't flashy. They don't really like, that's just not the way I was raised. So it didn't change on that aspect of things, but I think it switched up kind of the like what's next, the next goal. And it definitely, I learned a ton watching everyone just, from testing different tequilas from different, random little spots coming in the little plastic bottles.
Yeah, the plastic bottles.
The plastic bottles. I mean, it's crazy watching them go from that. And I mean, that whole story of how it started to the first day they produced, I learned so much that I think really it changed my life in just a way of drive that I never had. I got this drive that I never had when I saw my dad, and I think it was more so when they sold it. It was like, okay, if you can create a product, I mean, supply and demand, it's the most, it's one of the most simple forms of business, and they did it right, and it was just inspiring to watch. I think as far as life changes, my parents are going to, they go on trips, they go on little vacations, a little more often now, but not much. Just them enjoying life. They deserve it.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. You mentioned kind of like the moment of the sale, because, you know, like you said, it's like your day to day isn't changing. You're kind of still living in the same place and doing the same things, and because that kind of stuff isn't important. But when the world puts a value on that hard work, right, that the parents have been doing and all the people involved have been doing, it's like that's when you kind of realize like, oh damn, they've been working hard at this for a long time, and you know, kind of the world is looking at it differently now, I think.
Absolutely.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, totally. Do you feel yours was affected at all?
I'm kind of similar. I would say pretty similar. Like day to day, you know, nothing really changed, but at the same time, my dad loves it so much and is so proud of it and is so happy about it that, you know, he puts it everywhere and like it is all about it so hard. So like, I think he changed, right? Like he definitely had something that he'll rep anywhere and everywhere, anytime. We might cut this story, but I'll tell it anyway.
Yeah.
I was at
Those are the best stories.
No. I was at a Grammy party last weekend, and I ran into one of the Chainsmoker guys. I'm a horrible person for forgetting his name, but he was the man, with my buddy Mikey Spanos, and he was telling me this story about my dad because he was like hanging out with him, and he goes, "Your dad was hilarious. He was trying to get me to rep Casamigos." I'm like, "Mike, I have my own tequila." I was like, "I can't do that." And he's like, he still tried to get me to do it. And we were just laughing really hard about it. And it was like a really funny moment. But I think that's very indicative of like how his life changed, of just like repping it everywhere and anywhere and just being super proud of something.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely a similar, like you said, similar situations. Very, and it you know, it really gave like a you know, something like I'm trying to find the right word again, but it gives you that thing, like what you're known for, you know, what separates like the people that are going to be forgotten. You want to leave something that's going to be there forever. And if it's like, you know, if people, and I mean, they did it the right way. That's the bottom line. They did it the right way, and they made something that's incredible and will probably be, you know, part of their lives for the rest of their lives.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, from an outside perspective, I didn't drink tequila because of some rough tequila nights until I had Casamigos.
Yeah, at the Halloween party.
Yeah. I remember that's how me and Will met through our buddy Max Blank.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Okay. And I remember going and I'm like, dude, all they have is tequila. I'm gonna die tonight. I was like, but I can't not drink it, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember drinking it. We had the absolute best night. It was so funny, so much fun. And I woke up the next morning with no hangover and energy. And I was like, whatever this is, I need more of it. Like, this is insane. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that you could have tequila and not feel like crap the next day, you know? So that part of the conception of having a great product, which is, you know, without a doubt, that's what Casamigos is. But also the branding and, you know, the house of friends, you know, it's true through and through the brand. And your dad also, and Mike and George all do such a great job of communicating that, you know, the ethos of the brand. It's awesome, man. Absolutely. No, thank you. I appreciate that. And, you know, it's cool. It's definitely a lifestyle. You know, I think that's the lifestyle of people who are involved in Casamigos. That, you know, it's an amazing thing. Yeah. It's it's so funny because I can't even tell you how many times people have been like, and then I drank, you know, I hated tequila, and then I tried Casamigos, and I didn't wake up with a hangover, and it's like it's cool because that's what I think, and I'm sure your father said this to you as well. He's like, we're trying to create a tequila that is the smoothest and that you don't wake up with a hangover with. And when a lot of times in life, from my experience, people go, they shoot for something, and they'll a lot of times hit their target or hit very close. But I feel like they hit this, center of the bullseye. Yeah. And that's just what made it different, because the way it affected, my dad's a health freak too. You know, he's that man's in the gym for 3 hours a day. Yeah. You get the cold plunge, 3 minutes in the cold plunge, 20 minutes in the hot, back and forth. I mean, he's an animal with that kind of stuff. So he can't be waking up hungover. He was never like that. That's why he created it, so you have something
healthier on the shelves.
Yeah.
Something-
So you can enjoy yourself and still not feel like crap.
Exactly.
I
awesome.
love that.
Your dad, every time I've seen him and there's been anything athletic involved, he is a freak, dude. I've never seen him miss the bell ever. You know, I've never, like, if there's a football, a golf ball, whatever, man, he's a beast, dude. I remember the first time I had to, we were in Cabo and I had to go against, it was right after him hitting the bell at the taco shop. And
Yeah.
he hits it and I was like, dude, I have to hit this right now. You know, like, Randy got it. Everyone's watching. Like, so I like, as light as I could lob it to make sure that it hit it.
Yeah.
It barely dinged it, but I was like, thank God, dude.
Yeah.
Like, he just doesn't miss, man.
There's something special. Yeah, my dad, he grew up going to sports camps where it was like 8 a.m. to sundown, and I think every 2 hours you're switching sports.
Wow.
So like
Yeah.
he played, I mean, every sport growing up, and now it definitely carried over to his adult years, because I mean, anything I do, he's keeping up or beating me in
That's-
that. Like
That's
everything, even on the court, like we'll go hoop, and I mean, it's insane.
He's a great golfer. His swing is really good.
Oh, he's an insane golfer. Yeah, he's definitely, and these last couple of years, especially since I started taking it a little more seriously, you know, obviously thanks to El Dorado, been enjoying that driving range. I mean, we went on the course when we were there for New Year's, and I mean, it's a very, I feel like it's a unique sport, and when you're good at it, it's a good thing, because it applies to business. It applies to, you know, there's a lot of money made on the golf course.
And made and lost, right?
Yeah, exactly. That and just, you know, communication wise and everything. So I think sports, just as a person, it brings people together. You know, like we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Surfing is not a team sport. Team sport, you can, you know, you're coming together. You're doing things. But he loved sports growing up. Played his whole life, and I mean, we got a tennis. Now it's pickleball.
Yeah.
Now it's pickleball all day, every day. But I feel like all of the world's switching over. But
Oh, for sure.
it was tennis.
Yeah, pickleball's no joke now, man. Everyone's playing pickleball.
Pickleball's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
You
fun.
enjoy it?
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's like lighter tennis, so you can play it for longer.
Yeah.
That's why I like it.
I think it's fun too.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
You guys play it all?
Once it kind of started, Pops put it at every property. So now it's like everywhere, because he wants to play at every property he's at, so it's got to be there. But the members have been loving it too, and it's a good workout. It's fun. People get so competitive.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
Like I've seen people just like married couples like fighting on the pickleball court, and like friends not eating dinner together. So I love the drama surrounding it, because like it's pickleball.
Yeah.
But yeah, good workout, fun, good to socialize. Yeah.
I would say I played at Madison Club, and I would recommend this to everybody who ever plays. Don't play without socks. Worst. Yeah, not fun. Tore me up.
Me, you, Pops, and Morton.
Morton, yeah.
Was that the four?
And then Wampa, I think, was the other one.
And then
yeah. Yeah, rough, dude. Bleeding out pretty hard after that.
I'm sure. There's a lot of stop and go with that.
Yeah. But super fun sport, man.
It is a great sport. It's an interesting name. I feel like they could have
Where did this pickleball?
something. It's just anything else. But look, it's blown up. So
I'm gonna have to look that up later. How they came up with pickleball, right?
I actually heard a story. Some guy a couple of years ago, he had a dog named Pickle, and he would throw his ball, and then when the dog would go fetch it, he would say pickle ball, and it would bring the ball back. And I guess his wife said that turned into pickleball. Him and his boys would then play with a wiffle ball, because it was a lot easier on their knees. They're not running back and forth as much. And
Cool.
I mean, that was a little.
Is that what happened? Because that's
conception
crazy.
story,
Yeah.
I
I can imagine, like, you throw your ball and they bring it back. That's like the motion of the game, also, right? Like you hit it back and forth.
Yeah, it's like a dinking game. It's just quick.
That's awesome.
I like it.
I want to believe the story, because it's like cute and funny.
Yeah.
And gives a little more authenticity. Some dude.
The folklore of
that's
pickleball
true.
coming to life.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
it's the only story I have to go off of, so I'm believing it. I'm going to tell it from now on, too, actually.
Please do.
Yeah,
Please
gotcha.
do.
Have you ever had any ideas or wanted to or already do wanted to go into business with your dad in any way? Have you guys ever talked about that or thought about that?
When it comes to my dad and I coming up with ideas, he's a very, he's a businessman, and he treats me like a businessman. So if I have a bad idea, he's not going to say that's a horrible idea, but he'll direct me in the right way, or, be like, you might want to think of something differently. So yeah, there's been tons of things that we've come up with. We haven't executed anything that's public yet. But yeah, there's definitely some stuff in the works, and really, but I think working with my father would be it's a great thing to be able to work with your dad, so just a family member, and someone that has more. I mean, bottom line is someone that has more, knowledge than you. But working with a family member that can teach you things, that's kind of like, that's the goal. While at the same time, I think there's a lot of ways that people would look at me if I did a business with my father. It looks like, and it's sad, but everyone's got opinions. And not that I care, but you can definitely lose credibility and execution, I think. And I think if, let's say I would have come out with a company, it's like Presley Gerber and Randy Gerber are launching a vodka or some shit, just a product, let's say.
Yeah.
It could be looked at in different ways, and that's just how it is when you come from a certain type of family. I mean, no doubt certain things it's a blessing. Bottom line is a blessing. There's definitely the negatives that come with everything that's in every family. But as far as work-wise with my father, yeah, we have tons of things that we want to work on. We got tons of ideas. We're both constantly ping-ponging off of each other.
What are some of those other kind of passions that you moved on to after modeling?
Yeah, so I don't know how much we can really get into this, but obviously mental health is a huge thing right now in the world. Yeah. It's at an all-time high, low. I don't really know what to
you could say that either way.
Yeah, it kind of goes both ways, sadly. So for me, and having struggled with, mental health, depression, and some other things that come along with that, I think that, whether I help one person or 100 people get out of that place that I was in at one point in my life, that's all I need to do. So I just really, and I've definitely had a lot of experiences. Like I've had a lot of deep dives, a lot of, vacations, and a lot of time to look into myself and learn about myself with therapists. And just through my life, I would, I'm definitely looking for a way to, because I learn from other people's mistakes. Well, I try to. I like to make them myself and then learn the hard way, because then it sticks. But
been there, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we have a similar outlook on that. But yeah, really, my whole life, when I was 17, I really remember thinking this, and I was in the studio. I was trying to do some music because I wanted an outlet. Like I knew I needed to share some of my experiences with some people, and yeah, I think that's what that's what I want to do is create, whether it's a platform, whether I use one of my current platforms, if I come up with a company. I've thought of like literal clothing brands just revolving just around mental health, because it's an issue. And for me, because it is such a big part of my life, it's a 24/7 job, and there's so much to it that I think that that's really what I want to do, is help people get out of, whether you're depressed, you're struggling with something that is having a negative effect on your body. It could be anything, and there's no judgment, and it goes. I've just seen a lot of stuff, and I've learned a lot of things, and what I hope I can do is have made the mistakes for some other people so they don't have to make the same mistakes that I made.
It's 100%, man. And it's almost like a goal that's bigger than just a career, right? Like you're helping really actually helping people. And like, I mean, just look at what COVID did. I mean, you have 15 million jobs lost or something, you know? I think we got like half of those back maybe. But even just that, right? I mean, society's gone through hell and back, it seems. But that's great, man.
Yeah, it's an extremely admirable thing to do, and even a way to pursue it as well. And I grown up with depression my whole life. I've been through some serious stuff as well, and figuring out myself as I go along. And one of the things I've always done or tried to do as I've gotten older is before I would hold it all in. And I think it's one of the most courageous things you can do is speak about it and live in your truth and talk about it and realize it is okay and not everything's your fault. And, you know, you're not alone, you know, and so many times I feel, at least in my life, you know, I wasn't able to be open in that way. And then it only made it worse for me until the point where I was able to speak about it. And so every opportunity that I get to, whether it's a friend, whether it's a person in passing that we start a conversation, whether it's the podcast, wherever we're at, I think sharing that and sharing your experience and wherever you're at in your journey is such a massive thing, not only for others, but for yourself. It's such a healing thing. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep it going. It's awesome. And it's not easy, you know, and I don't think it's always meant to be easy, but what you're saying, if you're able to help other people through your experience, then that's one of the biggest blessings you can give so many people.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. You're a badass, dude.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
And it's interesting too, like when we were talking about the comic earlier, you're like, oh, it looks like a great outlet. And it's like, you know what? That's what it is. And that's what it started as too. And then it just started like that. And then I just kind of got really into like writing for it. Now there's 7 different comics in production and like all 6 under one umbrella of Kane. And like now the zombie one too. And like there's going to be a ton more that Brock and I do together. There's going to be a ton more that I just randomly think of and make.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then writing screenplays for the comics too. Like we're making series Bibles and full screenplays and all that. And like, it's just a rabbit hole you can go down, and instead of going out on a Saturday night, I write comics like a total nerd, and I love it. But yeah,
and that's one of the coolest things you can do, though. And that's for me too. When I was young, growing up, I had 2 things that I love. Once I turned 15, it was always film and it was working out. And what did I do when everyone else was partying? I was watching movies or I was studying how to get buff, dude. And that's what I needed for me at the time, you know, and that's something that helped me is being active, being physical, tracking my stuff, you know, and making sure that is, because knowing it's a factor in my life. So this thing is exactly what I wanted to do when I got older, is what Will's saying with, you know, having an outlet. It's the reason I fell in love with acting was because that was my escape. That gave me something to, you know, escape into and to take me out of my crazy world at the time, you know? And we all have different escapes, and it's realizing what those are for us, and some are healthier than others. But for that, it's like moving forward, I decided to dedicate my life and what I do, and whatever scale I can do that, to give that back to other people. And it may not be, you know, that this movie is going to change your life or something, but it might give you a brief hour or 2 hours of happiness or joy or forgetfulness, or maybe it's an educational one where the story teaches you about family, it teaches you about, you know, forgiveness, teaches you about love, teaches you about whatever it is. And so using art to do that is such an awesome thing. That's why these comics are so cool, man. That's why the path that we're on, all 3 of us, in whatever direction that goes and wherever it takes us, is ours for our own, and to do whatever we want to do with it.
No, that's amazing. It's amazing, and it's cool because even like, I'm curious to know what gave you the idea to start the podcast, because even this kind of thing, this is how people, first of all, another outlet.
Yep.
And second of all, people watching this will learn from, hopefully, things that we talk about, whether it's a mistake that we made or something that we learned that was beneficial, that helped us through a certain part of our lives, my life, your life, whatever it may have been. You know, I think that's just the most important thing is spreading awareness of just creating, you know, everyone has the same goal. Everyone wants to be happy, right? Money can make you get there quicker, but it can't buy you happiness. Yeah. So everyone's got the same goal. Let's be happy. And I feel like the more information that's out there about, you know, that applies to having a genuine, better lifestyle, way of living, way of treating your body and treating your mind, especially, that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
I believe that, you know, we each individually have control of our own happiness, but at the same time, I also believe there's this quote my friend told me probably 15 years ago now, and he said, "I look at every step I take as the opportunity to do good." And so for me, I have adopted that in my life where, you know, I'm not always perfect, man. And I don't always, you know, live by that to the best of my abilities, but I try to be the best version of me, whatever day that is. And if I can leave people better than how I found them, or at least not hurt them, then I know I was at least successful in how I've showed up in life. Try not to be an a-hole, try not to be a jerk, try not to make somebody else's life. You never know what somebody else is going through and what they're carrying. So don't try to add to it when you can lighten it, or at least not do anything negative in that sense, you know?
I love that. No, what that's gold right there.
Yeah.
That's gold. I mean, do not add to it. Like, and it's just such a big thing. People are so fast to judge these days. Everything's so fast these days. It's just, there needs to be a little more optimism. There needs to be a little more optimism in the world. I mean, just looking at everything, like if you're going to someone's birthday party, just even the mentality of like, it's like, ooh, I don't want to run into this person. Ooh, what if this person? It's like, if you don't want to go, don't go. And if you're worried about that, then eliminate that stressor from your life and have a good night and make yourself like a hot chocolate and put on a dope movie and then relax, or don't complain about it. And like, and then if you're gonna go, or if you're gonna do something, that's why I always say, like, if you're gonna do it, do it. Don't, because then you got that pulled back, you're not fully engaged, and that can come off in a disrespectful way. So I think that's exactly
great,
how you said it. It's perfect.
Great advice, man. Yeah. Talk about like music or
Yeah,
bands you like, or how has that affected your life in any way, like music in general?
Music is a huge part of my life. Yeah, music's a big part.
Same.
Recently, podcasts.
There you go.
I picked them up. It's like it shuts my brain down. It like thinks for me.
That's great.
It's you know.
Oh, dude, yeah, I get into total flow state with music. If I'm working out or like going on a jog, or even working, like driving, anything, I have to have music going.
Yep.
What are some of your favorite bands?
Oh man, I think, well, bands obviously. If we're gonna go bands, I gotta go a little old school. So Rolling Stones, you know, Guns N' Roses. I like classic rock. That's the bottom line. Yeah. If we're gonna go with a band, I like classic rock. I like, you know, I mean, there's so many good musicians from that era. Now, I've definitely transitioned more over to, I would say I was into like a lot of rap for growing up. I don't know why, but that was huge in Malibu, was like hardcore, like gnarly rap.
Dude, my brother got me into Dr. Dre at a young age too, like Sir Mix-a-Lot. I don't know, the 90s maybe.
Yeah. And I think, you know, my mom, she told me that, she said when she was pregnant with me, my mom loves Eminem. So shout out Eminem. Yeah. My mom would put like my dad had this big set of Bose speakers, like the OG ones, you know, like the big headphones, and he would put it on her belly, and they would play Eminem, and I would start kicking, I guess. So that was like, maybe it was ingrained in me from birth or something, but rap was a really cool. I always just found it interesting because when you're making music, whatever form it is, you're typically telling a story.
Yeah.
With rap, I feel like there's almost no rules. So there's certain songs that have no musical structure to them. It's just a straight up story. And I thought, like, when I heard, you know, some like Eminem, go back to Eminem. I mean, that guy is telling stories, and you know, they are gnarly stories. But the fact that he could be so vulnerable and just spit out everything, that's like therapy sessions. Yeah. You know, for an artist in that form, I definitely spent. I want to say like 2018. I spent a couple months in the studio. I was trying to make an album. I made like 8 songs, and we mastered 2 of them. I've touched up here and there. It's a great outlet. I love it. It's definitely hard to, get to that moment where it's like, all right, let's release this and see what people think. So I haven't gotten to that place yet, but music is a huge part of my life. And like Brock and I were just talking about podcasts now.
Yeah.
I started, as I'm working on getting my real estate license. So there's just a ton. It feels like I'm back in school because, there's some of those math problems that you're like, I wasn't able to do this back then. I'm not doing this now.
Yeah.
So thank God we got the internet. And
calculators in our hand.
Now
literally.
AI is coming up hot too.
Oh yeah. That's going crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
But yeah, it's really just I found that when there's silence, I think, and sometimes that can be a bad thing if you're in a certain mood or maybe you might be having a bad day or whatever. So when I put on a podcast or I put on a song that relates to me or that emotion in that way, I feel like my brain can literally stop thinking, and whoever's coming out of the voice that's coming out of the speaker is now thinking for me. So I can be present. I can be, that's why meditation for me is so, it helps a lot. Like yoga, meditation, all that kind of stuff. I love it so much because it's grounding, and, especially when there's someone talking to you and kind of guiding you through the entire process. And that's why I love sound baths. Anything quiet, like I've tried meditating a lot, and I can never do it in just a dead silent room. There's got to be some sort of soundtrack or something. But there's just with technology and the way, they got beats that make you eat faster. They got beats that make you want to shop. They got
no way.
There's frequencies and everything,
That's true. Resonance and all that, dude. Like that's how like the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids, man. You got 30-ton stones cut perfectly. It's like saws could not cut those, and they could not move those with like ropes and pulleys. Like there's something going on here. I believe it's like the resonance theory, and like, man, I'm not even going to get started on that because we're going to get so fucking sidetracked. But anyway, yeah, hell yeah.
No, I totally agree. Frequencies. There's just something about it, like tuning your body. It's tuning your body.
Exactly.
And if it's a podcast, if you're learning stuff, if it's beneficial to your knowledge, you're literally just funneling money into your head. And then if you're listening to music, you're either kind of changing your mindset, or you're setting it a certain way, or you just want to, music is just, it's such a big part of ambiance and just vibe overall. So
yeah, music too. Like you can listen to a song that, like maybe there's an Eminem track where you hear it and it throws you back to the womb, like it maybe that's a little too far, but but it can take you back to a moment, or it can incite an emotion, or it'll take you back to a memory where you're like, I heard a song the other day that reminded me of my ex from 10 years ago, and I was like, I haven't thought about that in a decade.
Dude, wait, that happened to me
Did
today.
It really? Oh, no way.
I was looking at this like 90s hip hop Instagram, and it was like the Me and My Girlfriend, it's Jay-Z and Beyonce, but it was like Tupac singing it. Damn.
I love everything that you just said, because so much of that is, I heard a long time ago, I was really into self-help books and really things that helped me get out of my depression too, is like I wanted to relearn or retrain my brain. And one thing I heard early on was, our brains, if you want to look at it this way, are like computers, and you can reprogram them. So I would take things like songs, like meditation, like quotes, and I would reprogram myself. I would adopt that quote at the time or whatever it is into my mind and say, okay, from now on moving forward, I'm going to use this. Like I'm going to treat better, leave people better than how I found them. Like these little things all the time. And over time, your frequency and your vibration gets higher, and then you attract more of that too. And then everything just keeps to get better, versus if you know yourself enough to say, I can't sit with myself in these moments, I need to do something about it. What can I do? That takes a lot of strength and awareness. Then you do it, and then you move forward from there. And that's an awesome tool that I think is going to I mean, for me, I think it's such an awesome perspective to look at it. It's cool.
Yeah, no.
Dude, it's Metallica and Black Sabbath at the gym, and then Bob Marley during the sunset, right? Like, you can literally kind of create your own world with it.
Yeah, it's just like that form of nostalgia. I mean, like you said, it shoots you back 10 years. It can, like, it can do, it's magical. It's magic.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I used to, it's so funny. When you said rapping, I used to, after I graduated high school, I would ride around with my buddies in the car and we'd put instrumental tracks on and just cruise and just freestyle, dude, all day.
Yes,
and it was sometimes it was total crap, and other times it was like, how did that just come out of me? You know what I mean? You get in a flow state and you're like, this is amazing, and you practice it enough and you build up that tool. But I remember, well, I forgot the lyric now, man, but I had a buddy who he dropped this line and I was like, oh, it was his line was like, I got something on my mind, call it brainstorming or something. Like, I got rain on my mind, or he said something, but it was, I wish I could remember because it was a Lil Wayne verse, and he tried to act and it just came out, so none of us had heard it yet, and he tried to claim it as his own. I was like, that was genius. How'd you think of that, dude? And I heard it like a week there. I was like, you're such an idiot, bro. Like, get out of here, man.
That's too funny.
Oh, yeah.
Thought you could get away with it.
Not this time.
Especially, Lil Wayne, though.
Dude.
Shout out Lil Wayne. And, I mean, that man, I was watching an interview on him. I think, an interview. And this is, word of mouth from him. But he apparently has never used the same verse twice in the same song. So,
wow.
I kind of believe it.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
But if you're going to bite someone's lyrics, and he's the one to bite, for sure. Man, yeah. Never using it twice. You won't know.
That's incredible, dude.
Definitely one of the goats, dude. Like, he's
J. Cole too. I think is phenomenal, dude.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. That's a different breed, man.
Yeah. I mean, their brain thing, it's almost, freestyling is truly one of the hardest things to do with your mind. Yeah. I think it takes so much brain power to freestyle on a song. People don't understand that when you're literally coming up with something that's going to be on the beat, but you don't have it written, you're thinking into the future to match something up with a beat that's going to hit any second. So like the amount of processing that's going through your head, I mean, the only other thing that I could say that could do that is now AI.
Yeah.
Literally.
I mean, what else is there?
People are the only things I know that could come up with something so. I mean, you hear something like rest in peace to Juice WRLD, but I mean that guy freestyling for an hour long, coming up with stuff off of his head, like, and it's real too. He's talking about things that, like, we'll be talking about the color of his jacket, the color of the chair, what he's feeling like. I mean, using current, and not. Because a lot of people, they write their freestyles, I mean.
Oh, yeah. And then they go on a talk show and it's like, you're like, come on, dude.
Yeah. It's just, and look, it makes sense. It makes sense. But you can, if you have a certain type of ear, you can tell.
And it eliminates risk, right? Kind of like, yeah.
Exactly. So if you have a good flow like that, I mean, it says a lot more about you than I think that you're just a good freestyler.
Yeah.
Like, if you can freestyle, you can write your own song.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So that already eliminates that factor. And it just goes deeper from there.
I'm sure some of the greats, too, have gone into a studio session with no idea what they're going to rap about. And then they freestyle something. And it's like, well, that just became one of the biggest songs in the world, Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
I made a video in film school about, like, the state of flow. And I took examples of, like, athletes, musicians, and all this stuff. And I had, like, guitar solos from the 70s. I had, like, jazz musicians from the 50s, whatever it was. And then, Eminem, actually, from, like, modern day, and, like, a couple other rappers. And I just compared all these people in flow states. And it was, like, one highlight video, like, 5 minutes long. And the whole class was, like, kind of stunned. They were like, because I didn't participate that much in that class, but I came in hot with this video, and it was kind of cool to, like, see their reaction of, like, damn, that's, like, really profound. Like, all these different people of different backgrounds, like, different scenarios and all that. But yeah, I love, like, kind of studying that, like, flow state, like you're talking about.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. That flow state is that. I mean, that's what that being grounded is being in that flow state. To me, at least, that's what very similar feelings.
And look at it too. I mean, we're talking about it here now, and it's something that it brings people together, and it helps people with so many different, aspects of their life, whether you just want to be entertained and have fun for a minute, or if there's music that saved my life. I talked about that the other day. There's this album that I heard just at the right time when I was 15, and I was having some real dark thoughts and moments in my life, and it pulled me out of it, man. Made me realize I wasn't alone, And so there's so many elements to that, and then when you're able to create and just have fun, even if it's not good. Like, I play around the guitar sometimes, and I love music so much, but I know I'm not technically a musician in any way. So,
like in Hawaii with Kaimi.
Exactly. Yeah, dude. You showed me a couple.
I was like, damn, Brock's actually pretty good at guitar.
I'm not, but I was just like, dude, I feel things a lot, and even as an actor, you express things with your body. But I've always been very visually quick learner. So there's never been something where I was like, no, there's no way I can do that. It's like that one's going to be more difficult than that one. But if I watch you, I can kind of figure it out. And it was that same thing with the ukulele. I saw him play a couple chords a certain way, and I was like, okay, we got this. I didn't go very much farther than that, but it was a fun moment.
That's amazing. Yeah. Would you say that acting or having acting in your background, like obviously you got to get out of your comfort zone quite a bit.
Yeah.
Do you think that's helped you? From what my sister tells me, it helps her just with communication and overall, talking to people. But do you think it's also helped with just performing in front of people? Like, I couldn't play the guitar even in front of two people. It's nerve-wracking.
Absolutely.
So do you think that helped at all?
100%. I think acting has been, for me, one of the biggest tools that I've ever tried to sharpen or learn how to use, because I started off with no experience and I was absolutely terrible, but I just knew that this is what I wanted to do. I was horrible. And somehow I booked a TV show that now the whole world can see anytime they want to go back and realize how terrible it was. But it's, for me, the best blessing, because I'm like, I can laugh at it and go, check that out. That's where I was, and this is where I'm at now.
You were good on it, man. You were better than you think you were.
Not the first one. But besides that, what happens is, I've spent now a decade learning how people work and watching people and studying and learning myself and how to step more into someone else's shoes and have empathy, because I believe acting is empathy, and then you learn more from somebody else. And one of the greatest things is when you're in front of a room of 200 people and they want you to dance like a chicken, it doesn't matter what you want to do. You're supposed to dance like a chicken. Now, the way you do it is all on you, right? And there's different scales, and art is subjective, but you can tell when someone's a good actor and when somebody's not, when you believe every word they're saying that's coming out of their mouth in that character, whatever it is. But you do enough improv classes, you do enough stuff in front of people, because I was so insecure growing up. I was so hyper conscious of myself. I had no confidence whatsoever. Working out for me helped me with that, and then acting was the biggest thing. Of just, one of the best lessons I had was on that show that I was terrible. And one of the actresses, I couldn't get the words out because there was 3 cameras in my face, 200 people around me. It was my first time ever really acting, all this stuff. And she pulled me aside and she goes, okay, what you need to do is stop giving a F, what anyone else thinks. I don't care what the director thinks, don't care what the cameraman, don't care what the PA thinks, don't care what I think. None of it matters. Just go out and do your thing. When you stop caring about what other people in the world, and that was for me too. I grew up with social media, or when I started social media, it took off for me in a funny way. I went viral for a man bun, which is one of the dumbest, but also one of my most grateful for things in my life, and here we are. And those two things, where I was subjected to millions and millions of people all at one time, and I heard everything you could possibly hear, positive and negative, about yourself. And people are judging you, calling you every name, everything, making up stories about you, doing all this stuff. And so those two things, of one, I started to realize that, one, I put too much value in people's opinions that didn't truly matter to me. It's what do I care so much what this person's thinking? Who are they that it's so important to me? Now, if it's a family member or someone like that, it makes it more difficult in understanding that. But realize that people are showing up the best they can with what they know. And when they're showing up the best they can with what they know, sometimes them being negative or hurtful or whatever it is that's just where they're at in life. And, it sucks sometimes, but that's okay for them. It doesn't mean you need to invite it in your life. Doesn't mean you need to accept it, but be understanding that like that's just where they're at, and that's the best. And one of the best things I've learned was a truly happy person will never say a negative thing about somebody else. So when you figure that out and you realize, oh, that person's talking crap on you, or they're saying this about that guy, or they're doing this behind the back, or whatever it is, they're not happy. Yeah. There's something in their life, whatever it is, whether it's an insecurity, whether it's a fear, it's a doubt, it's a, whatever it may be, but it's holding them back from being the highest version of themselves. I call it the Olympian version. We've got multiple different versions, but the Olympian version is like you just walk down off Mount Olympus and you're in perfect form, And when you step and look at that person, well, what would that version of me do? When you're able to look at that and show up in that way, the rest of the stuff, it doesn't matter what the world thinks sometimes, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and I can't even imagine. Well, a little bit, but everyone has opinions. Everyone has opinions. So you're always gonna, no matter what you're doing, there's someone's. And I've heard this. Like if people aren't hating on you, you're doing something wrong. Yeah, it's because people aren't noticing you, and there's always going to be someone who disagrees with what you're doing. Whether it be, it could be. You could literally be doing nothing and someone's going to disagree with you existing. Yeah. And
and
I've
for
experienced,
no reason.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure you know exactly what that like. There's keyboard warriors. Yeah. Is like
it will
bizarre.
It will always tell you more about them than it will about yourself.
For sure.
And understanding that. And so acting to your question is something that gave me that freedom. And one thing I love about it too is it's a constant evolution. There is no limit to like, oh, I am at this point now and I've reached the pinnacle of acting. You're like, no, because then someone comes out of left field with the craziest, performance you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, there's no limit because all of a sudden, you might have mastered drama, but have you mastered comedy? Have you mastered being a dragon? As weird as that sounds, have you done all these things? It gives you freedom to just be and to be present. And that's one of the things I love most about it too, is you have to be in that moment. I can't be texting in the middle of a scene. I can't be anywhere else, but like as stepping into those shoes or that person or persona or whatever it is, and being that in that moment. And I love that for that reason.
It definitely seems from the people I've watched get into acting and have acted, George being a very good example. Oh yeah. Just communication skills wide, people skills. It's incredible.
I don't know if you have interest in acting, but if you do, you should definitely do it on whatever scale you feel that you want to do it. And, But I remember when we had your dad on, I remember now, you're saying that he had a passion for directing. And I was like, I'm going to talk you into directing one day, man. And it'd be awesome to have you and your sister. I heard she's doing
amazing. He was talking about Kaya, too. He was saying Kaya's doing some acting stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's Kaya's new. Yeah. She's definitely transferring a lot of her energy over to her acting career. I want to say that's her.
Incredible.
That's definitely her primary focus right now.
I think at the time it was like American Horror Story and stuff like that, right? Like she's getting a bunch of. That's so cool to see, man.
Yeah. It's amazing seeing especially your little sister too. Just like I'm watching a show, American Horror Story too. Like I watched that show before even she decided to start acting. So you're watching the show and you see your little sister pop up on screen. It's like. It's wild, but it's amazing. It's really a profound career choice. I feel like there's just so much. You never stop learning. And a lot of, there's a lot of jobs, a lot of career choices. You're never, you're always learning. But to your point of someone coming in and crushing that role that it's like, then it can reignite that fire. It can, bring you back in. Also, there's those certain things that, I'm assuming as an actor, that awards maybe, or certain people you'd want to work with, just like modeling, if you're interested in certain brands, you're like, ooh, I want to work with this brand. So let's try to coordinate my career to land this job or something like that. And
you hear so many people all the time that say, they'll go up to somebody that they've never worked with or haven't even have any relation to, but you'll run into them in the street and say it's like Steven Spielberg, and the actor will go, I'm going to work with you one day. Flash forward 5 years, they're working with him, or whoever it may be. But I've heard so many of those stories of just like exactly what you're saying. You do want to work with some of the greats. Scorsese, and there's just so many people that, well, they're the best at what they do. Why wouldn't you want to work with them? Christopher Nolan, there's just so many people. And same goes for acting too, across from actors, not just people behind the camera. So it is that where you can kind of craft it in whichever way you want if you put in the work and the time. It's a very difficult business, much like modeling, you know, and it's hurry up and wait so much of the time. I never know when my next job's going to be. But then you fall in love with the process of filmmaking and you realize, oh, I can always go make a movie. It's not going to be easy, but I can make one. I can write one. I can direct one. I can produce one. And I could do it on whatever scale, small or who knows, you know, maybe Warner Brothers wants to give me $100 million film and let me direct for some crazy reason. It's not impossible. It's pretty highly unlikely, but it's not impossible, you know, and you could put in the work to get there.
Absolutely. And from being on set, from learning all these skills, whether you're playing a role or, you know, being around just certain people, you then feel like, you know, through the years, you've gained those skills where, let's say that opportunity does arise, you'll be able to, you know, take the full, you know, just really make the most of it with what you've learned.
Exactly.
So I think that's great. No, it's super.
It's
that's
fun,
super
man.
cool.
It's exciting, and it's also fun. Like there's a part of it that's fun, not knowing what comes next. Because then I've had calls where, you know, I had no idea I was doing. I get the call and be like, "Oh, you're going to be on set at Euphoria tomorrow." I'm like, "Okay, I'm there." But you know, but it's a wild ride, but it's something that keeps you on your toes, and it's exciting and it's fun. At the end of the day, like it's not even about money to me. I love it. I would do it for free, you know, and I have, and I will continue to, you know. So we'll see what happens.
And there's always the other side of the coin in my world, the producing and the production aspect, right?
Absolutely. Thank you. No, it's inspiring too. Just like I said, at this point in my life, you know, I'm really trying to take advantage of every opportunity that I have because I've gotten to the point where I see, all right, whether this goes good or bad, I'm learning something. So let's try it. What's the, you know, unless it's literally known to be bad for you or something that's, you know, not good or against the law, don't go for it. Like
that's also such a good mentality to have because I think so many people, when opportunity comes, and a lot of times, especially in Hollywood and modeling industry and just everything in general, it comes in waves. And so, and life in general has ebbs and flows. So a lot of people I've seen, and I'm one of these as well, is things will be going up and it feels like it's going to last forever. It's the best ride of your life. But then you realize, oh, there's a downside sometimes and maybe there's no work for a year or 2 years or whatever it may be. But being able to be advantageous enough to take advantage of those opportunities just the way that you said, it'll change your life in a way of like, well, maybe this will flop. Maybe this won't work out. Maybe I'll learn something from it, whatever it is. But moving forward, at least I feel with gratitude in everything I do. I mean, I'm alive, man. I woke up this morning. Everything else is just extra, you know?
Yep. I love that, though. Appreciating the fact that you woke up, it says something about you in it in a very good way. Just waking up and you're like, all right, one more day. It's a blessing. It is a blessing, especially for, you know, certain people. It's a little more of a blessing too.
Yeah.
So
Gratitude's a hell of a thing, man.
That was my first tattoo.
Really?
Yep, my first tattoo.
What? Well, shit, man. I'm a tattoo connoisseur as well. I don't have quite as many, but I have we've had many podcasts where I get asked about one, and then I of course have to explain at least 3 or 4 more.
I got a question about what you got. You got a cancer. You got the cancer look because I got the exact same tattoo on the same arm. No, is it this arm?
Left arm.
No. Where do I have it? Somewhere on here. I have it. I think it's up here, actually. I have the cancer logo, though.
Cancer one. Me, my younger brother, and my younger nephew are all cancer. No way. It's like,
Oh,
and then I got amazing. The rest of my family. I feel like I needed a family one.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of art stuff, so I figured you need a family reminder because it's very important.
How old were you when you got your first tattoo?
I got California on my back when I was 18, right when it was legal, graduated high school.
Yeah. It was first thing out doing it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And then I couldn't stop.
It's addicting.
Yeah.
It's addicting for sure.
I just love art, you know? I want to be around art.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
There's something about being also, if you go to the right kind of tattoo studio, there's an energy in there that, I mean, there's been times in my life too where I'm still, you know, I still could see myself being a tattoo artist one day. I love doing art. I've always been into, you know, drawing, spray painting, all that kind of stuff. And just doing the fact that you can transfer art onto skin these days, it's a wild concept. So I was interested in it from such a young age, and then at 15 years old, I had a really interesting experience, and I literally just went and got my first tattoo. It was in Canada. A guy didn't check my ID, and
there you go.
Bing bong, came home with the tattoo. It was but it was, my point being was, I think you said something about being grateful, and my first tattoo said be grateful. So
that's awesome.
I love it, man. Yeah. And that's like, a lot of my stuff is kind of like that too, just like very direct and to the point. And it's like, I usually think, what am I never going to regret? And it's like being grateful, right? Yeah. Or like, I have a Bible verse right here. I have like a St. Augustine quote right here. Like, it's stuff that I can appreciate and like hold dear, but also be like, I probably won't end up regretting that. You know, it's all good.
I was gonna say, I feel like you come home even at 15 with a be grateful on your arm. It's still kind of hard for parents to get mad at that.
Oh, that was a night to remember.
Yeah, was it?
That was a night to remember for sure.
Oh,
also, I couldn't pull, like you come home, it was in Canada, it was like 100 degrees outside, and I come home, I told my mom and my dad, I was like, hey, my buddy, because he was 16 so he could drive, and his dad had a car out there. I was like, hey, we're gonna go buy some like little gifts, like from the gift shop for our girlfriends at the time.
Yeah.
Rainstorm happens, and trip turns into a 8-9 hour trip. I don't get back until nighttime. Wow. It stays warm there at night, some nights, and it's probably like 90 degrees, and I'm in board shorts and like a huge hoodie. And my parents, I ate dinner with them. Everything's a little off, but I eat dinner with them. I'm talking, it's a normal night, blah, blah, blah. Like, hey, let's go watch a movie, like this is, we're on a little trip together. We go up, and then, middle of the movie, pause. Hey, Prez, take off your hoodie. And I'm like, you guys knew this whole time, didn't you? And I mean, that moment, my mom looked at me and she just said, she actually didn't get mad. She just said, show your dad. And that was the scariest thing that I've ever heard come out of her mouth. I took off. I don't think I've ever gone to my room. I literally teleported through walls. There was like holes in the drywall from like my direct path going straight to my room. But it was worth it to me. And the night before, something really tragic happened, and something lined up too perfectly. And I kind of said in the back of my head, like, if something like this, that I need to remind myself, because to me, every tattoo, it's like, you should see my phone, it constantly has reminders going off. Constantly remind, like little things, check your email, this. But my body is like the big reminders. So like whenever I look in the mirror, what do I really need to remember? Now, of course, there's some that I have that I could do without, but that's how it for sure started, was reminders and things that I would want on me. But yes, to your point, 15 years old, coming home with, and it wasn't small. It took up my.
That's a good size.
Yeah, it's a good size for sure.
My forearm. Yeah. So I don't know if the cam can see that.
Dude, I love being young and doing stuff like that, and you think you're so sly.
Oh,
You're 15, and it just, you're not. You're not
at all.
You can do all you can, but
that's awesome.
No, yeah, man.
That's so funny.
I do remember though, I felt like a badass when summer was over and I was 15 years old rolling into school with an arm tatted up. I was like, people were looking at me like, the teachers were like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I couldn't put it together why it was wrong. And then I made a friend that was a tattoo artist. So, I mean, I really stopped getting tattooed when I was 20 years old, 21, 20. Like I got a face tattoo, and then I got it removed. And that was really the last big visible tattoo that like I got. And I ran out of space real quick. Let's just put it.
Space.
Yeah.
It's funny you put it that way too. Well, one, I love like the big reminders, right? Like you put the big reminders on your body and you keep the little ones in the phone for the daily. That's like really profound. I like that. And then also like I kind of stopped at like 28, 29 was like my last one, maybe 30. At least like 2 years. I mean, I'm definitely going to get more. I'm like planning my next one right now. And like, that's not a PSA for people listening or watching, but I just am, it's overdue for a new one.
Yeah. Get the jersey on the back, just full.
But yeah, no, if it's your thing, it's your thing. It's cool, you know. It's art and can be expressive of like very positive things.
Well, our friend Hannah actually tattooed one of Will's
She did the World Industries.
Oh, no way.
She created this whole series online about I don't know, something like I don't know how to tattoo and my friends are idiots. So they let her her tattoo them. I mean,
but she did like 30 people before me. So that was like a lot.
But I'm just saying, there's people out there. If you want to go down that path, bro, there's people that'll do it, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tattooing is such an interesting world. And, you know, recently I was in New York and, you know, I was just doing a bunch of art, went in to get a couple of tattoos fixed up that were fading. And, you know, they were, you know, the thin ones, they start to come out after years or bleed or whatever.
The sun.
Exactly. And this one, I fell mountain biking, so it literally just scraped off me. I had, you know, it was kind of gnarly. But so I had this guy redo my elbow, and he had one tattoo on his leg. Typically, tattoo artists, you know, the rule of thumb is you can't tattoo someone where you don't have a tattoo if you're a tattoo artist.
Wow.
So that's like the rule of thumb that I've learned from being in shops. And that's why typically, you know, they got the head, because if you want to get a lot of work done or you want to get a lot of clients, you want to be able to tattoo anyone. So if a guy comes in saying, I want something on my head, you want to be like, I can do that.
Yeah. It makes sense because you probably feel what it feels like and you know how the whole process, right?
Exactly. You know how hard to go, how deep, and like, you know, where to go easier, give him a break or whatever. It's, you know, the pain, as you know, the pain's different, and I don't know if you have any. But I
don't have any.
Yeah. So you know the pain's different
after
in every
hour
spot.
Like 6, it gets gnarly anywhere. But I've done 2 sessions over 6 hours. But
wow. Yeah. Longest for me is 5.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like maybe hour 4. After hour 4, it starts.
Oh, it's just like it definitely gets brutal.
Yeah.
It definitely gets brutal. But my point, the thing that I really learned from this new tattoo artist that I was working, or he was at the time, he was the one that I was going into the shop and stuff. He was very knowledgeable in like what's really happening to your skin, how deep to go, the angle. I mean, this guy was he was very precise. And I had never learned about tattooing in that way. He was like, it can only go down through the 6th dermal layer of skin. And if it passes the 7th, that's how you get blowouts. And if it's above the 4th, it'll come out. So you're really, I mean, and I think you have like 12 layers. So you're really not, you're shooting for 1/4 of a millimeter really is where that needle's supposed to hit. And I just learned, you know, and it honestly, it kind of messed me up because I learned that a lot of the times when you go too deep, it's hitting your bone. And when it's in that bone, it's going.
That, yeah.
So like he looked at my hand and my whole top of my hand is in my bone because the guy had a heavy hand. There's some guys that go super light. There's some guys that go super deep. Dang. When I started out, I hated the thought of having to go, like when I would see my friends, they're like, I'm going to get my tattoo touched up. I was like, touched up? What does that mean, touched up? You get a tattoo once. And that was my mentality till like a year ago when I found out, it's actually better to be getting it touched up than to have a drill, you know, like having something drilled into your body. So but it is amazing. It's really an amazing thing. I mean, just the precision of, and even with a stencil, I mean, the precision that some of these people have is insane.
Yeah.
Like a simple circle, doing a simple circle with a tattoo gun. I've done it. It wasn't a circle.
No,
you know?
I can't even do it on a piece of paper.
It's hard. It is really, it's a lost, and it's been around for so long that just, it's some things like that I get really interested in, right? Because there's so much to it. Like they found, I saw something recently. It was the earliest tattooed skull. They found someone and they had a tattoo like right here and like some sort of tribal lines or something on their face, and it was actually BC. It was like 1100 BC. This skull's from.
Hell yeah.
So I and I get super interested into things that have been around for so long. Like you said, the pyramids. I mean, we can't figure out how we got them up there. Those big bricks cut like that and up on there.
By the way, there was not one mummy or like dead body found in a pyramid. They're not tombs. They're not like we haven't found one mummy in a pyramid.
So where are mummies found? I
don't know. In burial grounds, there's different temples that are used for burial grounds with like thousands of mummies. But yeah, that's another interesting fact.
I hope in our lifetime we figure it out, or it's released to the public, or whatever.
Yeah, the government knows, dude. They know. They have aliens. They got all this technology. They know.
I feel like there's one, just those X-Files, the floodgates. They're just waiting to open them up. Yep. There's so much, and I'm a conspiracy guy. I don't necessarily believe all of them, but I will dive in. I love learning about it.
I got some YouTube channels for you.
Let's go.
Yeah, I started looking at them when I was young, dude, like 14, 15, 16. And I remember I had a buddy, I think I was 16 years old, and we were getting real into studying aliens and whatnot. And I came over to his place one time, and he goes, "I need to talk to you." And I'm like, "All right, what's going on, man?" He goes, "Have you heard of Nordic aliens?" I'm like, "No, dude, what's a Nordic alien?" He's like, "I'll show you." And he like pulled out this page in this book that was like 600 pages long, dude. And it opens up and it goes, "They're about 6 to 7 feet tall. They got long blonde hair, blue eyes, pale skin. They're usually physically fit. They got all this stuff." But all this, he listed off everything. It was like he listed me off. Didn't talk to me for a year after, bro.
Really?
Never
thought you were an alien?
Oh my God, he thought you were an alien.
Literally, dude.
Oh, he was literally listing you. He was like,
it was the list on the paper. It was the list in the book of what it was, but it literally like matched my attributes at the time. And he didn't talk to me for a year, and I never forgot it to this day.
That's amazing.
Hilarious.
That is a gold story.
Yeah, dude.
Wow. You gotta take that one with you.
Here we are, dude.
Yeah.
I still haven't found out if I am or not, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if that spaceship comes down and picks you up for lunch, you might.
I'm out, boys.
Yeah.
We're going to Nobu.
Yeah. That'll be our ride.
That's awesome, dude. It's too funny, man.
Uber UFO.
Right?
Yeah.
How sick would that be if I had the only UFO in LA, though? It'd be dope, dude.
Be skipping that traffic that we got to work with, dude. Monday through Friday.
I mentioned Spielberg a couple times. I'm like, "Hey, Spielberg, it's time to reshoot E.T., bro." Let's go.
Get him in the basket.
That's awesome, dude.
So what do you got planned coming up? What's on the docket for 23?
23. Well, first of all, that's the lucky number. Family's lucky number, and I'm 23. Jordan year, everything's lining up. So hopefully this is going to be a very good year. Very hopeful. Right now working on getting my real estate license. Working on a couple of other projects, I been really diving into mental health and just the community around it, because I feel like it should be talked about a lot more than it is. A lot of things about mental health aren't addressed or literally hidden by, I don't want to speculate, but things disappear. A lot of information isn't shared. So I've really been I've been working on anything from anything that's going to benefit someone in mental health, and I've really been trying to find what that outlet's going to be for me. Right now, I've been working on a little project. I'm calling it Mental Health Mondays right now. So every Monday, I'll be talking to, whether it's a trainer that worked with me to help boost my endorphins when, maybe I was going through a depressive phase, and hopefully people, can watch that and learn something from it.
Yeah,
I'll be telling a story of, one of the treatments I went to and green flags and red flags to look for. Diving into Western medicine, diving into therapy, everything. And I think that's really what's getting me going. That's what's getting me out of bed these days is that hope that hopefully I've made that mistake for a lot of people that will, they can learn from my mistakes. Hopefully I've made the mistakes for a lot of people. And if they're like me and Will, then they're going to want to do it the hard way like we do. But if they want to listen, then I could save them a lot of hardship and a lot of struggling. So really just finding that outlet. And right now it's be probably using Instagram, putting it out there, and like I said, talking to different people, anywhere from people I met in treatments to, like I said, trainers, nutritionists that helped me change my diet, the way I eat, which completely helped my weight, the way I felt, the way I looked, the way I slept. So really just, like I keep saying, finding that outlet.
Dude, I love that, man, honestly. And yeah, I saw a nutritionist for a bit, completely changed my life. I've been seeing the same therapist for like 5 years now. It helps so much just to talk to someone if you can. For some people, it's a family member or a friend or, but if you can, have the resources to get a therapist, I recommend that for sure.
Yeah.
But hell yeah, dude. Very, very cool. This was awesome, man.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Thank you for watching Studio 22.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
And follow our socials at Studio 22 Podcast.